Previously on the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
No, you have to win the championship.
I'd rather win the championship, even if it meant losing the last regular season game.
Because no one's going to remember.
But you don't have to worry about resting your guys or anything like that, because you're not a real coach.
I think if I was in Mark's position, I would rest my guys. I just rest them.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh Sports Show.
Skip.
How's it going?
Great. How are you?
Great. I've had so many things that caught my eye this week to talk about. I have like a list of things.
That's good, because I don't have many, so you might as well start with your list.
You're usually the one that's kind of like prompting me a little bit with things that are on your mind. And this week I was like, I don't know. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, and there's a bunch of things that caught my eye. And then the one thing I didn't want to talk about all of a sudden came up yesterday was the Habs game. So
I didn't get to see the game, but I did see the highlights. And I mean, I don't know how they talked about it on RDS in Montreal, but on TSN they were saying that Price was pissed off that he got pulled in the middle of a period, and he gave like the death stare to Therrien or somebody.
I saw the highlight. I saw that highlight. Well, first of all, I didn't watch the game because I couldn't watch the first period, so I was going to come in late, and then it was already 4-0 by the time I was going to start watching, so I just gave up on it.
The Friday night games are bad for the Habs.
Yeah, well, it is a bit weird, the Friday night games. They don't play them that often, and now they have a back-to-back, so... But, I mean, I feel like he pulled him because, look, they asked Therrien what's going to happen with the goalies, and he said Price is playing on Friday and Montoya's playing on Saturday. Like, he laid it out. And now he took Price out, and he's coming back with him again tonight against the Capitals. So,
yeah, he said that in the post-game press.
So I think he was taking him out just to not to rest him, but just trying to reset. Knowing that he's going to come back with him the next day, which smacks of complete desperation. You're 30 games into the season, and it's like, is every game really a must-win? I don't know.
No, but it's interesting how he used a completely different strategy when it was Montoya that was getting shelled, and he knew that Price was starting the next day, and he let Montoya just sit there and give up 10 goals.
Yeah, there's that highlight going around like you talked about of like Price staring down the bench and whatever, and then of course he didn't come out to talk to the media after the game, which he always does. I mean, he's very, very forthcoming. He's never running away from the press. The death stare thing is completely overblown here because everybody's all scared about another Patrick Watt situation. That's that's in the back of everybody's mind.
That didn't go so well.
Yeah, no, that didn't go so well at all. Knowing what we know about Price, and since he's been in Montreal, this guy's really hard on himself, and I'm sure there's nobody more pissed off at the way he played yesterday than him. And he feels that he let down the team, he let down himself, and he wants to do better. So I mean, of course, no one likes to get pulled. So he got pulled. He didn't like it, right? He wants to be in there stopping pucks. He doesn't want to be sitting on the bench. So I think it's completely overblown, this whole video that's going around and him staring down the bench, and hopefully they'll come back strong tonight. But it's funny because exactly a week ago we said the Habs would have to win every game 2-1 to stay afloat, right?
And that hasn't happened.
No, and then of course they came out and they won the first two games really easily. The first game really easily. The second game they scored 10 goals, and then they played a great game against the Bruins. Honestly, they played a great game against the Bruins. There's nothing to be ashamed of. They lost,
and they lost 2-1.
Yeah, they lost in overtime, which is nothing to be ashamed of. 3-on-3 is not real hockey, right? I mean, it's like,
it's fun to watch.
It's great. It's super exciting, but I mean, it's literally like, it's all about execution, right? Because you get a 2-on-1, and if you don't score, they get a 2-on-1, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just back and forth, and it's trading chances. Who's going to capitalize? And they scored, and they deserved it. Full credit to the Bruins. So the game against the Bruins is the type of game they needed to play. And then, of course, yesterday they got blown out. But they haven't needed Carey Price to bail them out so far in these last 4 games, right? It's been a while since Carey Price won them a game, which everybody says is the only way they win. So we'll see what happens tonight against Ovechkin. It's always
what was
exciting.
interesting. You know how a lot of people say that TSN stands for Toronto Sports Network because they talk about Toronto sports teams a lot more than any other team in the league or team in the country.
It's not wrong.
No, it's not wrong. So what was interesting on SportsCenter this morning when I was watching, the Raptors had a game last night, and you'd think they'd start with the Raptors, but the first game they did was the Canadiens game against the Sharks. I was surprised to see that, and I think it had something to do with the fact the whole Carey Price getting pulled in the second period, whatever. If that didn't happen, I wonder if they would have led with the Raptors game. Just something I'm wondering about.
You're 100% right. TSN is like, like every other news outlet or sports network. They're trying to get viewers. So whatever's hot, right? Whatever's the most sensational, that's usually what they're going to go with. And in this case, I guess that's what it was.
Funny to see that after the Canadiens got blown out 10-0 by Columbus a month ago.
Yeah.
They actually won a game 10-1 against Colorado a week ago.
Crazy. They have a game coming up against Columbus, so it'll be interesting to see if Montoya gets back in that game or not.
Well, you know what? Columbus actually
they're the hottest team in the league. Well, other than the Flyers.
They're overall in the entire league, they have the fourth best record in the league.
Yeah, look, Columbus, they've assembled a decent team, right? They made a bunch of moves to try to improve themselves, Johansson and like they should be better than they are. I mean, their coach is a complete idiot, but
I agree.
I mean,
can't stand John Tortorella.
I mean, but maybe something's getting through, right? Maybe something's getting through to the players, but which could happen with a coach like that, right? He's going to be hard on them, and he's going to be the idiot that he is, and eventually maybe something clicks and they start playing like a team. But like, it's not sustainable with coaches like that. It's not sustainable. You don't have a long life with your team, because eventually the players are like, this guy's a moron, we don't want to deal with him, right?
Yeah, I was
or the press will run you out of town. Although Columbus, I guess it's not the same as like when he was in a bigger media market, like where he, like in the other cities where he's been. Like, I think in Columbus he can kind of run the show a little bit in terms of how the press covers him.
Yeah, I was going to say his shelf life. It's if
ridiculous.
when you yell at players, and that might work for a season or maybe two, but it doesn't last long term. So we'll see. I mean, they're doing great right now, and this is the best season Columbus has ever had, I think, in their history in their existence.
Wow.
They're tied actually with the Canadiens with 42 points. They're only 2 points behind Pittsburgh, who's the best team in the league. But also, it's 28, 30 games into the season. So, a lot can happen in the second half.
Of course.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show. They don't take your calls.
You know how I do my best thinking usually in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some thoughts. There's some numbers that came to light, which is pretty crazy. That the amount of goals that Sidney Crosby has, right? Do you realize like he has 21 goals in 25 games?
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw something about it this week where somebody said he might get 50 and 50.
Well, I mean, it's highly unlikely, but I mean, he's on a really torrid goal scoring pace right now, and usually it's the opposite, right? He's got 21 goals and 12 assists, so he's basically become a goal scorer instead of a playmaker, which is like the opposite for him. But I started to think of other stuff. I was starting to think of like, man, 21 goals in 25 games. How come I didn't notice that? How come it's kind of under the radar? Because all the talk in the NHL this year has been about, Laine, Austin Matthews,
Mitch
and
Marner,
David Pasternak on the Bruins, right? Who's also on a crazy pace. But Crosby's played less games than all these guys. Laine, everybody's talking about Laine and McDavid, right? Laine's got 17 goals, but 33 games, right? Crosby got 21 and 25. So it's so funny because the beginning of the year, everybody was like ready to say, "Oh, Connor McDavid's the best offensive player in the league," forgetting that how great Crosby is. And Crosby's just basically came back from his injury and is like, "No, I'm still the best."
Yeah,
I'm still the best, and until you dethrone me, like, I'm still the best. So I started to think about some kind of weird numbers in other sports that also were deceiving, right? So, I mean, I follow the NBA a lot more than you do, and the big talk this year is like Russell Westbrook, right? He's angry. He's mad at that Durant left and everything. And, he's averaging a triple-double, right?
Yeah.
30 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. That's what he's averaging on the season, which is pretty crazy. Although there's a lot of talk about how he's kind of like going for the triple-doubles. Like he's intentionally grabbing rebounds whenever he can that he normally wouldn't.
Even though he claims he doesn't care about it.
Yeah, he claims he doesn't care about it. But, I mean, there's no way in the back of his mind he has to know. I mean, so I was thinking about, man, Russell Westbrook. But you know what? Just like everyone, kind of overlooked like some of the old guard, James Harden is having a ridiculous season. This is the guy that after last year was saying, well, he's a great scorer, but his team sucks. He's not a complete player. He doesn't play defense. Like, there's so much people making fun of how he plays defense on the internet. There's internet memes about James Harden's defense. It's kind of a joke. But he's quietly averaging 27 points, 8 rebounds, and almost 12 assists a game, 11.8. So his numbers are basically just as good as Westbrook, and actually his team, the Houston Rockets, which a lot of people kind of wrote off this year because they were so kind of pathetic last year and like they were so underwhelming, they're right up there in the Western Conference right now.
Well, Houston made two significant changes in the offseason. First of all, they got Mike D'Antoni to be the head coach.
Yeah, which is run and gun, right?
And they also got rid of Dwight Howard. That's addition by subtraction right there.
Yeah, it's 100% addition by subtraction. But James Harden, I think, basically kind of looked at all the critics and said, you know what, I got to be more of a complete player. I've got to help my team win. Forget about the fact that I'm going to, maybe lead the league in scoring or whatever. And so far he's doing it. And Houston is really like kind of like a force to be reckoned with. And then I was thinking, what about other sports? What about numbers in other sports? So the numbers that everybody was talking about in baseball are the huge contracts that are going out to the relievers. So, for instance, like Aroldis Chapman got 5 years, $86 million, and then Kenley Jansen 5 years, $80 million, right? Mm-hmm. And we were talking about if you're a smart team, you shouldn't be paying these contracts, right?
Right.
And it turns out we were proven right because we know who is a smart team, the Chicago Cubs. And what did the Chicago Cubs do? They traded from strength Jorge Soler, an outfield prospect with a pretty high ceiling, but that they have tons of outfield prospects, and they traded him to the Royals for Wade Davis. And Wade Davis is like the forgotten man in all the closers because he had a little bit of an injury-plagued season, but the first half of this year and the last 2 seasons before that, this guy is the most dominating closer in the league. Forget about Chapman and forget about whoever. This guy's unhittable, right? I mean, I don't know. I had him in fantasy. He's like a staple on my fantasy team. I actually use him as a keeper. He's incredibly dominant. When he comes into the game's over. And even with his injuries last year, he still saved 27 out of 30 games. So the Cubs picked him up. He has 1 year left on his contract, and he's only making $10 million. So
it's so funny how you say only $10 million.
I know.
That's still too much money to me.
It's still too much money, but it's $70 million less than they have to pay if they would have had to resign Chapman.
I would not have given $80 million to Chapman or to Jansen.
But like we were saying you'll find the reliever. You'll find the reliever.
And to sign them to such, never mind the money, the term.
Yeah.
You know how it is with closers. You can be great 1 year and then you're off the map. No one ever hears about you again because you blow out your arm or who knows what happens. So to give, what is it, a 5-year deal to a closer?
That's a lot.
I mean, other than Mariano Rivera, you don't, or like Dennis Eckersley, and Dennis Eckersley didn't even have such big contracts because, back then.
They don't have longevity.
They don't.
Yeah.
So I would never give, and I mentioned this on our last episode, the Yankees aren't even good. Usually the last piece you add to your team when you're good is the closer because you want to get over the hump. But the Yankees still have spots in their batting order that who knows who's going to take those spots.
They're full of young players. The Yankees are in like a rebuild in a way, in that they've got a young nucleus now and they want to see what they have, right? But they don't know if they're going to be good or not.
I mean, they might be good in Chapman's 5th year on his contract.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
But by then, he's not going to be as good as he was. Yeah. Also, I don't know if you heard yesterday. You know how we've known about the Chapman signing for over a week now, but it's interesting. I wanted to mention I was on MLB.com this week, and it has all the transactions. Every single day there's transactions. Of course, there's a lot more of them in the off season sometimes than there are during the regular season. And it has every little thing. If a team signs a player to a minor league deal, it's there. So there's all these guys you've never heard of. And it had all the signings, the Mark Melancon signing and the Jorge Soler trade. Everything was there. The Aroldis Chapman signing did not show up on the transactions list until 2 days ago. So I don't think he was officially signed until 2 days ago.
Oh, that happens sometimes because they say they agreed. They agreed to a
Right.
contract, and then
Right.
they
So
yeah.
like it was a done deal. I'm putting done deal in quotations, but it wasn't actually a done deal until 2 days ago.
And sometimes there's physicals that they have to pass, especially with him. I would want to make him pass a physical. Not that he's been injured, but the way he throws, like
Right. And then so they had one of those teleconference press conferences,
those are so
and
exciting.
well they asked him about how Joe Madden used him in the playoffs, and he said he didn't like it actually.
No, he doesn't
He
like
said
he doesn't like it.
Well, no, I mean, first of all, closers want to pitch the ninth inning only, but he's right. Like he didn't need to pitch in Game 6 when they had a 7-run lead. He didn't need to pitch that game, and then he did pitch parts of 3 innings, I think, in that game, if I recall. And then in Game 7, he was tired, and he said so. I mean, he didn't say it that day, but he said it 2 days ago on that conference call that he was tired when he came into Game 7.
I wonder if that factored into not wanting to re-sign with the Cubs. But forget about the money, all things being equal. I wonder if he was like, you know what? I don't know if I want to. This guy Joe Madden's too unpredictable. I don't like the way he used me, right?
Everyone says Joe Madden's a genius, and he's done some good things in baseball,
He got
but
lucky.
I truly believe he was lucky
Yeah.
to get away with what he did in the World Series.
In
He
every
was lucky.
sport, the margin of victory for a championship sometimes is so thin. There's so it's one play, one lucky bounce, one pitch, one one 3-point shot. Like just the margin of winning and losing is so slight, and yet no one gives ever credit to the runner-up. You only remember the champion.
Mhm.
Right? So there's so many teams that have made it to the final of their sport, and you're like, those are great teams, and they barely lost. And it's like, oh well, they never could get over the hump. They never could. They never could win a championship. I mean, you know how close, how close sometimes like these things are. It's
Well,
just
I have a perfect example for you. You recall the Super Bowl with Seattle and New England,
oh for
where
sure. There's
where
so
what's
many
it called?
Super Bowls.
Where no, but the one where Seattle lost, where they threw, they were like,
Yeah,
what was it, second and goal or third and goal from the 2,
yeah.
and it was intercepted, and New England ended up winning that game. So and they had arguably the best running back in the league at the time in Marshawn Lynch. The entire stadium, everyone watching on television thought, oh, they're going to give the ball to Lynch and they're going to win the game. And they threw and it was intercepted and whatever, the rest. Well, fast forward to 2 days ago when Seattle was playing against LA on Thursday Night Football. And there was a play during the game. It wasn't late in the game. Seattle won easily, but there was a play during the game where they were also, first and goal, or
Yeah.
second and goal. I don't know what it was. And they threw. And it wasn't, I don't know if it was intercepted or just is incomplete. Point being, they didn't get the touchdown. So Richard Sherman went up to
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll, thank you, and said, don't be doing stuff like that. We're on the goal line or we're close to the goal line. We're going to run the ball. We're not going to lose again the same way we lost to the Patriots. I don't know his exact words, but
Yeah.
basically Richard Sherman wasn't happy about it and he let the coach know about it right on the spot.
Well,
So I
Richard
just thought
Sherman.
that was interesting.
Richard Sherman's never afraid to tell anybody what he thinks. That's for sure.
No, he's not.
When that play happened in the Super Bowl, I was so happy. Not that
I was so upset.
Not that I'm a Patriots fan. I didn't care. I don't like Pete Carroll, and for them to lose on a play like that was perfect because he's so arrogant and he thinks he's so much smarter than everybody else. And
It's funny you're describing Bill Belichick, who I
yes,
hate way
yes,
more.
but the fact that they lost on that is like poetic justice. He thinks he's so much smarter than everybody else, and he just outthought himself and got himself into like this crazy situation, and he screwed up. And Joe Madden, this is going back to Joe Madden. Joe Madden almost did the same thing, right? He's so smart. Everyone thinks he's such a genius, but he basically outthunk himself, and he did all kinds of crazy moves with his pitching rotation, with his bullpen use, I should say. Let me tell you about that playoff run. Okay, I have to remember it properly. Exactly the playoff run you're talking about in the NFL. Okay, so Seattle should have beat New England, right? They
Yes.
should have beat New England. Okay, now Seattle should not have even been there because the Packers had Seattle beat by a country mile. It was a ridiculous comeback that they had no business doing. The Packers had that game won, and only by the grace of like 2 miraculous plays, Seattle managed to beat the Packers. So it's like the margin of winning is so small, right? And you only remember, oh yeah, the Patriots won the Super Bowl.
That is all you remember.
Well, I
And-
mean, I guess it's pretty memorable, that play with the non-play to Marshawn Lynch. I think we're going to remember that one forever.
Yes, for sure.
yeah.
And just like the when St. Louis was in the Super Bowl, was it 20 years ago or something, and they were stopped at
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah.
I'll remember that one.
Steve McNair drove the ball right down, and the last play of the game, they just couldn't get it in. Like, he got tackled at the 1-yard line. And then, you know what? The Rams always have their championship, and the Tennessee Titans will always, like, some people don't even remember how good they were, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Patriots, and speaking of coaches who think they're arrogant and think that they can do whatever they want, the Arizona Cardinals cut Michael Floyd because, you know, he was arrested for DUI, I think, on Monday,
Yeah.
and he's had an awful season, and he's just not panning out. And then, sure enough, 24 hours later, the Patriots signed the guy because the Patriots think, oh, you know what? This guy's got talent. Yeah, he might have some problems, but we can fix him. We can make him into a star player.
But they've done it so many times.
They have. It's true. And so I'm curious to see if this guy's going to turn his career around because now he's playing for Bill Belichick,
Yeah.
or he's just going to be another schlub that ends up getting cut.
But you know what? From the Patriots'
6
point of
next
view,
year.
it's a brilliant move, right? The guy's got loads of talent. So what do they have to lose? They're going to be like, either he's going to get in line and he's going to get with our program. You know, he's going to play the Patriots way, or we're going to get rid of him, right? So from their point of view, they don't care. And Michael Floyd, I guess, I don't know what he's thinking, but
Well, he's just happy to be on a team.
I
'cause
guess, yeah.
A couple of days ago, he was just in exile or purgatory or whatever you want to call it.
well, now he's their number one receiver in terms of talent.
Well, I don't know. He's actually went on the trip with them this weekend, but they didn't say whether he's going to play or not or start
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's another thing. He was just arrested, and it's possible that he could play this weekend. How is that even possible?
The NFL is so ridiculous with this.
They just don't care.
There's no rhyme or reason to when a guy gets suspended and when a guy doesn't get suspended, and
Yeah.
I know we've talked about this a million times. Like when Roger Goodell started suspending guys before things were actually proven, just because it's like it's unbecoming, or it's disgracing the game, or it's like I forget the name of the clause, conduct that's not
Detrimental
befitting
to the team.
Yeah. As soon as he started suspending guys before all the info was out, and I'm sure maybe he is guilty. Who knows? But it's up to the legal system to figure that out, right? It's not up to the NFL to police who's allowed to play and who's not allowed to play.
Hi there, Skip and Josh will be right back. To get in touch with them, you can send them an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. You can follow them on Twitter @skipandjosh, and you can visit their website at www.skipandjosh.com. And now, back to the show.
So you know what happened?
What happened?
Well, I needed a miracle to make the playoffs in fantasy football.
You did. You needed a lot of things to go right.
Yeah, and I almost did it. So I needed all these other 2 games to go my way, and I needed to beat you, and I needed to score more than 45 points against than someone else, and I almost did it. I think I got to within. I think I scored 30 something more points than Jesse, right?
Yes,
So,
you had 90, he had 64.
oh, I mean, it was so close.
But also you needed Book to lose, and
Yeah.
he destroyed his son,
Oh God.
130 to 26.
What?
So he 130 to 26.
Well,
So that didn't happen.
but I beat you, and yet somehow you made the playoffs.
Well, you did beat me, and I didn't have such a great game. I had a lot of points sitting on my bench that week, as I do every week.
Yeah, me too.
But funny enough, my 85 points, that wasn't enough to beat you, would have been enough to beat any team last week except for you and Book. So 85 is not so bad. Anyhow, I snuck into the playoffs because I had won the previous week and I had a tie earlier this year.
Yeah.
So I snuck into the playoffs, even though my overall record's below 500. I end up finishing 4th, and now I have to play this week in the first round. I have to play Mark, who, by the way, finally lost a game last week.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's undefeated, but I guess he followed our advice and he rested his guys, which
Exactly. He rested
didn't-
his guys. He
didn't
lost
do, but-
71 to 70.
yeah.
So now I'm playing Mark.
I
Our
think
game's-
it's looking good for you. I think you can pull it off.
Well, because he had two guys on Thursday,
And he only got 12 points.
They only
yeah.
got 12 points.
Yeah, I think you could pull it off. I mean,
um,
you're going to need someone to break out, right? And like, because he has so many threats, right? Between David Johnson, DeMarco Murray, Mariota, Cooper, like he has potential there for some guys to get like 25 points, right?
Right, right.
And your team, well, maybe it's going to be Tyreek Hill. This guy's on a crazy roll, right?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, like my team, certainly he has the upper hand, and he
Yeah.
should be favored, and he is.
I don't know.
My
I'm
guys,
feeling,
my guys, basically, I have to have like a career day from each of my guys
Yeah.
in order to win. The one thing I like that I have is I have two guys playing on Monday, so.
I know, and I noticed that you went with the Redskins. You're going heavy on the Redskins.
Well, it's not like I have much of a choice. I don't really like the Redskins, but I don't have many running back options, so I have to use Robert Kelly.
Fat Rob.
And I don't have. I mean, I do have a lot of wide receivers, but I don't want to use Terrell Pryor Sr. because he's on Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't want to use Rashard Matthews because he's playing against Kansas City.
Yeah.
I didn't want to use Kenny Britt because he's playing against Seattle.
It's just like everybody else. You overthink it. I do the same thing. You're trying to analyze it. You're trying to put your team in the best position to win. You're looking at the matchups. You're looking who they're playing. And in the end, you're going to have guys on your bench that are going to have points, right?
Right. Well, but that's why I'm using.
I know.
Using
but
Jamison
but
Crowder.
even with all this analysis and who they're playing and the matchups, you don't know what's going to happen. It's
No, I know, but
what we've proven in the last 10 episodes of this podcast, and we've talked about fantasy football almost on every one, is that it's a complete crapshoot.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. But you know what? You're saying I'm using two Redskins. I actually had two other Redskins on my roster that I cut. I had I had Vernon Davis and I had Kirk Cousins.
Vernon
And Kirk
Davis
Cousins
you
Kirk
can't
Cousins
use.
actually having a good season.
Very good.
But I didn't want to use four Redskins because if they have a bad game, I'm toast.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins is having a really good year.
So anyway, I'm going with Andrew Luck because he's the guy I've gone with all season long, even though they're playing against Minnesota.
Yeah.
So you'd think, oh, you don't want to use a guy against Minnesota. They have a good D, but whatever. I'm going with Luck, and that's that. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Check out the Skip and Josh Sports Show on Twitter. You know that little app with the little blue Tweety bird? Yeah, you can follow them there at Skip and Josh.
I don't know what happened to Pigskin Pick'em. I don't know. We didn't. You got. One
I
more
had
game
my
than
best
me?
week ever in Pigskin.
Yeah.
I had 10 games correct.
Yeah,
You had 9.
I had 9,
which
is
is your
pretty
best
crazy.
week also.
Yeah.
So we're both getting smarter, although we both got the Thursday game wrong.
Well, I mean,
Seattle
it was
favored
14
by
and a half
14
points.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they'd win for sure, but by 14 and a half?
You had to go for it. And think about it. You know, there's just one play in the game, right? If the Rams can get the ball in the end zone one time, then it's 24-10, and then add the 14.5, and then they cover, right?
Right.
So we weren't that far off, but you can't like not
No.
take 14.5, right? So who did you take in the 49ers Falcons?
Well, so I actually, in that game, I took the Falcons because that's 13 and a half, which is much different than 14 and a half. 14 and a half, you need 2 touchdowns and another point.
Yeah.
13 and a half, you actually need less than 2 touchdowns. And that game's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And the Niners are awful. I mean, true, the Rams are awful, but I think the Niners are worse.
I'm changing my pick right now.
Don't change it just because what I said.
I am. I just did it. Well,
You can, but that's usually the kiss of
I
death.
took the
to change.
49ers, but I'm changing it to the Falcons. I agree with what you're saying. The 13 and a half is different than the 14.
Now, this may change your mind. I heard that Julio Jones is not playing in this
It
game.
doesn't matter. The 49ers are 1-12.
I was offered free tickets to the
You told
Buffalo
me.
Bills Cleveland Browns game this weekend.
Yeah, I guess they're giving away tickets.
Well, I had to turn them down because, well, A, the weather's awful and I don't want to sit in the snow for 3 hours.
Yeah.
B, I don't really want to make that drive there and back.
Yeah.
And, you know, if the Bills were playing a good team like, I don't know, the Raiders or the Cowboys or something like that, a team that I
Browns.
want to see, then I might have gone. But
I think the Browns are going to get their first win of the year.
you think so? I don't think so.
I think they're going to get their first win, and they're going to fire. The
Rex
Bills are
Ryan?
going to fire Rex Ryan right after the game.
Well, I was surprised that Jeff Fisher got fired. I mean, with only 3 games left in the season, why not just let him finish the season? What's the difference? You're going to put in a new coach, even if he wins all 3, it doesn't matter.
I think it was more like, look, they've just moved to Los Angeles, right? They're trying to gain the fans' trust. They're trying to like build a fan base, although I mean there is one already, but They're trying to get their fans on board, and after they lost to the Falcons like 45 to something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, I think that game was 42-0 at one point.
Yeah, so I think they're just
before
trying
the
to
Rams
make a
finally
statement to
scored.
their fans, that's saying, look, we're serious about this team, and we're not taking you for granted, and we're going to make changes.
I don't disagree with you. It's just, 3 games left. Just let him finish the season. Especially they had just announced a week earlier that he had a contract extension.
I researched that because I was like, what do you mean? They just re-signed him. Now they fired him? It was deceiving, right? Because they announced that they re-signed him, but he had already re-signed in the off. It was like in the preseason is when he re-signed.
They just didn't announce it till about
which
10 days ago.
Super weird, right? I don't get that. So, I mean, the big game, I guess, is Denver-New England. New England is a road favorite, which is a little bit rare. But I guess
New England is always favored no matter who they're playing.
Pretty much, yeah.
No matter where the game is, no matter who they're playing, I think New England's always favored.
Denver's defense is good, but I guess we'll see. And then Tampa-Dallas is an interesting game because Tampa's the hottest team in the league right now.
I'm taking Dallas, even though they're favored by 7.5.
I took Tampa. I don't like the way Dallas is playing. They've been really lucky, and I think the Giants kind of exposed them a little into sort of how to stop them. The Cowboys can't convert a third down, right?
Everyone's talking about we might get to see Tony Romo in this game if Dak Prescott has a bad first half.
I think everybody's not wrong. I think they're close to bringing in Romo. I mean, Prescott's been on a big run, but what's been shown in the last few games is that he's not a great quarterback. He's a good athlete. He's aware. He makes good decisions, but they when they really need, if they're in third and long, he's not good. They're not going to make plays.
So Dallas is the Sunday night game again this week, and it looks like they're going to be the Sunday night game every Sunday for the rest of the season now.
Really?
I mean, it's 2 weeks in a row, and I don't know if that was I don't think that was originally scheduled that way.
No, they flexed them, sure.
So, and everyone wants to see Dallas, and they're doing well, so they're the Sunday night game this week. By the way, there's a game tonight in the NFL?
What?
Miami Dolphins at New York Jets is tonight.
Saturday? That's so weird. Why are they doing that?
They do that around the holiday time, around the holiday season.
Around the holiday time.
They do play a lot of Saturday games. In fact, I think next week they might be all Saturday games.
Yeah, well, no, because then we're going to get into the holiday, and the holidays are falling on the weekend. So yeah. But the Dolphins-Jets, I mean, oh god, the Jets are so bad.
The Dolphins don't have Tannehill, so.
Yeah, I know, but the Jets.
And it's snowing in New York right now, so can the Dolphins play in the snow?
I don't know. They have a good running game. I mean, you think they're a warm weather team because they're in Miami, but I mean, the style of their game is to pound it, right? So with a job.
Truth is, every player in the league pretty much comes from a warm climate. Whether you play on Miami or Green Bay or New England or whatever team you play on, most of these players, they played in Florida when they were in high school.
Florida, California,
or
Texas.
They played in California or something, or Texas.
Yeah.
Most of these guys don't come from I don't know, Cleveland or Pittsburgh.
No, they don't.
Some of them do, but most of them don't.
Yeah, you're right. So it should be an interesting week in the NFL. I'm looking forward to it.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is back.
I know you have What Bugs Me, and we're going to get to that in a sec, but I wanted to talk to you about a non-sports related thing.
Okay.
So, my kids are like most teenagers in that they don't really watch a lot of TV, but they watch YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So, my daughter mentioned to me that, and in YouTube, there's a lot of commercials, right? There's the same commercials that come on, the same ads that come on a lot of time before the videos play. So my daughter said, hey, you should mention this to Josh. Nestea has these ads. And now we're going to just enlighten the listeners a little bit. You are a big fan of Nestea.
I love Nestea.
It's like
I drink a can a day.
A can a day. So there you go.
Can a day keeps the doctor away.
Well, I think most doctors would disagree with that if you looked at the ingredients in Nestea, which is mostly water and sugar. So, I mean, my kids drink a lot of it too. But so now they have this ad campaign, Nestea, and I wanted to know if you were aware of it. It's enjoy hot or cold. Looking for something new? Pour into a mug, heat, and enjoy. Try our new delicious winter recipes. Have you heard about this?
This is the first I'm hearing of it. I'm gonna have to Google it later.
I tore it off the box of the case. So that's what I'm reading.
It's on the box.
Yeah, it's on the box.
Okay.
So apparently, and then I saw the recipes inside. The recipes are like these weird winter recipes, like with a cinnamon stick or like kind of like cider style recipes, winter warming you up things. But like, would you ever pour a can of iced tea into a glass and stick it in the microwave?
No, I wouldn't.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I
Because
couldn't believe
I don't
it.
think it would taste good. But also, I have to tell you, I don't like hot beverages of any kind, even if it's a beverage that I love.
Yeah.
Like I don't drink coffee, and I used to drink tea. I used to drink hot tea.
Because if you
But-
want hot tea, you would make hot tea. You wouldn't make iced tea and put it in the microwave.
Correct, I would not.
Imagine even worse, you pour a can of iced tea into like a pot and warm it on the stove?
I'm sure people have done that.
That's mental. These are mental people.
I'm sure they've done it.
You have to see the commercial. So Selena, she was trying to show me the commercial, right? We're trying to find it, but it wasn't coming up. So I'm like, okay, well, we'll just Google it, right? So the only ad I was able to find for it, and she's like, it's a commercial, and the woman is drinking the iced tea, and it's in front of a fireplace, and this whole thing. And I found the exact ad. We found the exact ad she's talking about, except it's in Hungarian.
Oh, great.
I didn't even know the language, so I had to like copy and paste the text underneath the in the YouTube page and put it in like Google Translate to see what language it was.
It's a lot of effort.
Yeah, hey, we spare no effort on this show, right? so I was only able to find this ad in Hungarian. So I think I will post the YouTube link on our website so people can see it because it's really actually. I mean, the whole concept is ridiculous to start with, right? Put your iced tea in a mug, put it in the microwave, and stick a cinnamon stick and nutmeg, and they're making all these like holiday recipes out of it. Oh God, the commercial in Hungarian is just amazing.
I just did a search on YouTube for Nestea commercial, and like 3 of the first 6 commercials, it says the person who posted them.
Yeah.
It says Nestle Philippines.
I'm telling you, I had a lot of trouble. I typed in like Nestle Hot. I was trying to search for it, and I really had trouble finding it. And that's why, like, I actually resorted to like going to the box of Nestea because I saw it on there, and I tore it off. So I'll take a picture and I'll also post that on the website. The whole thing is ridiculous. Like, hot iced tea. Come on.
Well, like I said, I don't drink hot beverages. I don't like eating hot soup.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
remember the girl you met at the grocery store that was a big iced tea fan?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. I wonder if she knows about this.
Well, I might, if I still have her contact info, maybe I'll tell her
I think
about
she
it.
liked our Facebook page, so maybe we'll send her a message.
Oh, good. Excellent.
All right, so what do you got that's bugging you?
You're getting me. Boy, are you bugging me, man. I'm gonna nail. Ooh, God. I'm getting bugged now. Whoa, man.
Okay, what's bugging me, I'll just tell you and then I'll explain it after. What bugs me are soccer players and soccer fans.
Oh, come on. I'm a soccer fan.
I know, but listen to this, and I've mentioned this before. About less than a week ago, the TFC had their end of season press conference,
Right.
just to talk about everything.
Yeah.
And your buddy there, number 10 on TFC,
Giovinco. He's not my buddy.
whatever.
Yeah.
He said, not even in English because I apparently
No,
can't
everything
speak
was through a
English.
translator. I saw
Right.
it.
He said that that the only difference between this season and last season is that we had to share our field with a football team, and the pitch was in poor quality, and that's why I got injured, and that's why we lost.
Really?
Now, I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah,
but
but
those weren't.
yeah.
But basically, he was blaming the fact that they're sharing a field with a football team, and that's why the season wasn't as good.
Well, then he should be mad at his own owners.
That's fine. Well, he can be mad at whoever he wants to be mad at. But it's interesting. He's saying that the season wasn't as good, but this season they made it to the finals, and the season before they didn't. So I'm not sure how he defines better.
Success, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's his stats, or he's just mad that he had to come out of the last game.
Right. Whatever. So that frustrates me. That all these soccer players, they're like they're like delicate geniuses. Oh, the grass has to be perfect and this and that. I mean, come on, give me a break.
I love these people. You can't ask them questions. They're so mentally gifted that we mustn't disturb the delicate genius unless it's in the confines of an office. When huge sums of money are involved, then the delicate genius can be disturbed.
And I've heard soccer players in the past I think when the Women's World Cup was in Moncton, New Brunswick a few years ago.
The Women's World Cup, they had a point.
And they had to play on artificial turf rather than natural grass.
Yeah.
The thing is, every team had to play on artificial turf.
But for
so
the
it's,
women,
it's the same for both teams.
It is the same for both teams. It is the same for both teams. But what the women were complaining about, and what the women were right to complain about, was that there's no other FIFA sanctioned event that would be allowed to play on those fields.
I don't know what's wrong with artificial surface.
There's no
divots. There's no
sure. But they were
grass.
complaining that they should be treated equally, and then just because it's the women and maybe it's not bringing as much money, that they shouldn't just pawn them off onto whatever fields, right? They felt it was substandard.
Anyway, but I'm not done. About a year and a half ago, when it was announced that the Argonauts were going to move into BMO Field and share the stadium with TFC, I happen to know some fans who are TFC season ticket holders.
Whoa, hardcore.
Right. And so the first thing they said to me when they heard about the Argos is like, oh my God, I can't believe we have to share our stadium with a stupid football team. I mean, seriously, you're that arrogant? They build this stadium in Toronto, BMO Field, and you expect it to be used only for soccer? What do they have? Maybe 20 home games a year out of 365 days? You're only going to use it 20 times? Is that what you actually think is going to happen? You should have to share the stadium with a football team or any other sport that can play in that type of a stadium.
But again, it's the owner's decision, right?
Yes,
you don't like it, complain to your... I mean, the owners made a decision, a financial one, to share the field, right?
Anyway, that's what bugs me today.
It's a big thing. I like it. I thought Giovinco's press conference was hysterical because he's just sitting there and he literally can't speak a word of English, or maybe he wasn't comfortable.
How do you not...
Look, he's Italian. He comes from Italy. He's only been in Canada for a couple of years.
A lot of people speak English in Italy.
I know. I was there. Many. I was there this summer. I was in Rome. And actually, you know what? I was surprised because I've been to a lot of European cities. And in most cities, you can get into a taxi and they'll know enough to, take you where you want to go. But Rome, I got some taxi drivers that were, Italian only. It was hardcore, But these guys were, 80-year-old guys driving. I'm surprised they even had a license sometimes. some serious stuff going on, and they all have these tiny little cars, right? Because the roads are so narrow.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Before we end the show,
more stuff.
Actually, I should have mentioned this at the top of the show. We haven't mentioned it, I think, since our first episode.
Yeah.
The reason we do this show and what this show is about, it's a sports show, but it's not really a regular sports show. It's a show about how sports affects us.
Right.
So you're probably not going to hear us talk about your favorite team or your favorite sport, possibly. We're going to talk about our favorite teams and our favorite sports and our favorite players because it's our show. If you want to hear about your favorite stuff, you can have your own show. So just wanted to remind the listeners who may not have tuned in for the first 10 episodes what the show is about and why we do it.
Can you believe this is going to be our 12th episode?
I'm actually surprised that we've made it to 12 so quickly.
It's so true. So just to remind everybody, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and give us positive reviews. The email address is on the website. Send us an email, send us a comment on Facebook, a tweet. We'd love to answer your questions. Every time someone's commenting, we're always going to answer you.
Yes, and if we ever make mistakes on the show, please correct us, and we'll give you a shout out on the next episode.
Absolutely. All right.
Thanks, Skip.
All right. I'll talk to you next week.
Great.
All right.
The Skip and Josh Sports Show is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.